So here we have a Lazy Boy rocker recliner. It has a rocking mechanism, but it does not have a swivel base. And we want to replace the rocking base with a swivel base. It'll still be able to rock afterwards, but it'll also be able to swivel. So when you turn it upside down, you'll see that there's two places where you've got springs and 3 screws attaching them to the rocker base. You got to remove these screws. I'm using a Torx T25 size, which seems a little small. The T27 is a little big, so I'm going to go with the T25 and loosen these up here. So these springs are under a little bit of tension. So if you don't prepare for it, when you unscrew them, you'll find that it moves down about 1/4 of an inch, which will make it hard to get back in afterwards. You just need some way to pry them back up. Alternately, before you take out the screws, you can try to put something in there. You can find something that'll hold it up. Now when I take those screws out, it'll keep it from coming down 1/4 inch. Now that we've got the rocker base detached from the springs, we can flip it over here, and you'll see that there's one more piece of the mechanism attached right here with 2 Torx screws, same size. We just got to remove those. So this here is the frame that the swivel base will ultimately attach to, and what you want to look for is the side where this is drilled. Those pre-drilled holes where we're going to attach that mechanism that we just detached. So as you can see, there are 4 screw holes here to attach this. We only need 2, so you can put it in 2 different positions. This particular chair, you can't really get to the further screw holes without causing this lever to bump the wood, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in the screw holes back here. Okay, so now we've got that mechanism attached securely. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this back over. And it's going to come alongside the springs here. And that's the next thing we want to attach. So just a warning, if you're going to put something in here to hold it up, if it's more than about 6-7 inches long, it's going to bump this cross beam here and make it a lot harder to get the holes lined up. Although they're almost in the right place, almost is not close enough, and so I'm going to have to play with this a little bit. If you didn't put anything under here to keep the springs under tension while you change the base, you're going to need to pry them up a bit. So what I've done is I've taken a small set of pliers and kind of gone in here and twisted until I got the springs up. Once you've done that, you should be able to move the wooden base itself and get these holes lined up. As you can see, there's the hole in there, and I want to line it up with the center hole here. So you just do one side, and then after that one's in, I'm going to come around and do the same thing on the other side with the pliers. After the 2 ends are in, you can come in and do this center one. So yeah, with a little bit of wiggling around the base and the pliers, I was able to get this lined up well enough that I could start the screw. And once it's in there, you can turn it pretty easily and tighten it right up. So you can see I got that front screw in, and the rear screw is not lined up at all. It's a little tighter to get the pliers in back here because of this triangular support, but you can go underneath. You can get your pliers in there and push that spring up until that also can be aligned with the screw hole. Once the pliers are in a good spot there, you should be able to lean down on this here and bring that other screw hole into position. There it is. There we go. Now that we've got both sides screwed on tightly, it's time for us to put the actual swivel onto this new frame. And that's going to use these 4 holes there. Alright, here's the base itself. And we're going to be attaching this right there. One thing to note is that to do so, we're going to work through these holes that they've provided, and then turn it 90 degrees. And so put in these two first, and then put in those two. Another thing to note is that they include some extra hardware here. Now, you may need this on your recliner. On my recliner, I did not need these spacers. These plastic spacers here, there are 4 of them, don't need them. There were 2 long screws, and there were these 2 little bolts at the end. There's no place for that on my recliner. I'm going to be using just these 4 bolts. I'm also going to use these plastic little washers that were provided. They're adhesive, so you can see, you can peel off this cover, and then attach them just like that. So I'll do 4 of those. The bolts that I'm going to put through, the threads are actually inside the wood here. They're already integrated, so we just screw right into that. Okay, so I'm putting the swivel on there. It's not attached yet. If you can see in there, I've got a hole, and then I have to line it up right there and put this down on top of that same hole. That's where the screw is going to go. So once you get that lined up, you're going to put in one of these T30 screws, using my T30 sized Torx head. And it's going to go right in there. Okay, now I've got the screw here and here are both in and tightened down a little bit, but not much. The whole thing can still move. I'm going to rotate this until I see it line up with the other holes, and now I can put in the screws for those. Once you've tightened those 4 screws, you can feel this. It's firm, but it should rotate pretty freely. There's the finished recliner, back on its feet, or I should say foot, and we'll take its first spin. If I sit down here, I can, as you can see, it rocks as it always did, but now it also swivels, and that is the new feature. That's it. I hope this has been helpful, and hope you're able to enjoy a spin in your new Lazy Boy.